Hey, welcome to Daily Faith today. My name is Philip Cameron, and we're starting out all backwards and forwards here. We're glad you're with us. We've got a very important show. The beginning of this week, I had oral surgery. They drilled into my jaw, and I've been having a lot of pain. And I called my guest, my friend Buddy Meloy, this morning to say, Buddy, I think maybe we should give it a rest today. And he began to talk to me about what the Lord's been showing him and this prophetic word. And I says, I'm going to go there. I'm going to introduce you and let you do all the preaching. We've got a tremendous word. We are living, now listen to me, we are living in incredible days, ridiculously incredible days. And I just want you to be there and be aware of what's taking place. There's spiritual things taking place right now in the world that is, if you're not grounded in the Word and the Lord, and He is your protection. This is just about the time when men's hearts fail them for fear, because as I'm talking to you right now, we've got a committee up in Washington D.C. talking about the assassination attempt on Trump. There's a whole bunch of stuff all at the same time hitting. You're watching the war in Israel. You're watching this. The other day, Ukraine dropped a bomb or whatever it was, a device on an explosives factory, an armament factory. And it was such a big explosion that it registered as an earthquake. So that was 300 miles into Russia. And if you know Russia, I'm European. Russia can withstand, they lost 27 million people in the last World War, 27 million. In the Ukraine war that's going on right now between Ukraine and Russia, they've lost 1 million men so far. I know it's not being reported over here. We're politicizing this stuff, and should we send Zelensky any more money, or should we not send him? That's a different matter. 1 million young boys and girls have lost their lives since this nonsense started. It is diabolical. So we have a tremendous show today. His name is Buddy Meloy. I call him a prophetic pastor, and he journals everything. And God spoke to him more than 10 years ago about what is taking place in the news today. So he goes back and reads his journals, and he reads and discovers these prophetic utterances, assassinations, all kinds of stuff that he's written down 10, 15, 20 years ago in his journal. And God brings it back into his mind and say, this is that season right now. So this is a real prophetic program. I need you to go and call your pastor. I want you to call your friends, because this information is knowledge. And when you see these things come to pass, so you're not going to be ignorant, the Bible says, when you see these things come to pass, lift up your head, your redemption draweth nigh. And we are seeing these things come to pass. And so this is an important program. And as I said, I wasn't going to do a show today, but the importance of what Brother Buddy began to talk to me about, I thought, whoa. He says, that's okay, we'll do it again. I says, no, I'm on my way to the studio. So we are delighted to have you with us. I'm glad you're here. God's going to speak to you today. Welcome to Daily Faith. Hey, my friends, welcome to Daily Faith. My name is Philip Cameron, and I'm delighted you are here with us today. We have got an important program to share with you. I was mentioning in our pre-show that I had surgery at the beginning of this week on my jaw. They put a post in my jaw, and it hasn't done very well, and I've had a horrible week of no sleeping, and yesterday my mouth was all swollen. And I called my friend, the guest today has been a lifelong friend of mine, and he has a tremendous prophetic ministry. And I called him to say, Buddy, let's do this, give me a few more days. And as we began to talk, just in conversation, he began to tell me what the Lord had shown him. And he said this words, this is time sensitive. I says, I'll meet you in the studio. And so my dear friend Buddy Meloy is with us today. And what he's going to share with you, listen, is something that God spoke to him more than a decade ago. And it's coming to pass. And there's things going to happen this year before this election. We are at the end of September, October, in that space of time, you are going to see some ridiculous things. The new war in Lebanon, that is going to, I'm telling you now, Iran is going to get involved, and China behind Iran. And so you have no idea what kind of, in fact, I've heard several people say, news guys say that Trump's life is in imminent and constant danger. So we have a real important program. If you love your pastor, call him right now and say, watch this program. If you have a friend that's interested in these seasons that we're in, that has this knowledge of an awareness of what God is doing in these times, get a hold of them, because I believe it's important. As you know, we do mission work in Moldova and Ukraine. 1 million lives have been lost so far in this war. 1 million boys and girls, young guys. They put them in trucks. The Russians put these guys, new recruits, drafted, put them in trucks and didn't even tell them where they were going. And they got off the trucks in Ukraine and they were said, the folk will love you. We're a liberating force. And they fell into a quagmire. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm telling you, I know Putin. This man is either going to win this war by any means or lose his life, because the oligarchs, the rich guys that are behind the scene, are not happy with what he's doing, because he's destroying Russia. He's bankrupting Russia. Only us buying oil from Russia is keeping them on their feet right this minute. And they're not on their feet, they're on their knees. Dangerous days are ahead of us. In the middle of this, we had a home there for 7 years in Ukraine. And one night my wife was in Ukraine visiting our kids when Russia invaded. And every year we have a tremendous, it's a bittersweet season when the kids that have graduated from university, we've rescued them, we've told them, shared the gospel with them, and they have gone through college and university, and they go and they stand on their own 2 feet. They get jobs, and 5 or 6 will hire rent a wee apartment, and we'll keep giving them food and keep them going. And it's an amazing thing. And at the same time, new kids come in, brand new kids, whose lives have been destroyed by the orphanage and poverty and everything else. And we just got a video the other day of our new girls coming into Vatra Village. Watch this.
They have found a place for their weary hearts to rest. The abandonment and abuse, the poverty and loneliness of yesterday gives way to hope and peace. Their world is held in a small bag. The welcome tub of clothes are more than they have ever seen. But most of all, it's home. Elevate Life Home begins again the miracle of restoration. The tattered threads can be repaired by the love of our house parents as these precious girls are pointed towards the cross. You, by giving, have made this miracle happen again. It opens the heart of God to repay those who have given to the poor. Thank you for loving generously.
And the miracle begins again. All of those girls you see, if caught by a trafficker, would make $300,000 a year for the trafficker. 3 girls would make $1 million. And all it would take is a beating and a hamburger a day to keep them alive. And they come to us instead, they hear the gospel. They learn that God loves them and He's a plan for their lives. If you are born, God has a plan. We put them in college. In fact, one of our girls just graduated the other day, and she's a doctor. And there's a new girl just come in, and her dream is to be a doctor. And if it takes 6 years, we will keep her there with us, and we'll support her and pay for her college and everything she needs in her life. So one day, I want to affect a nation with leaders, and that's what's happening. Everything we do is done by someone like you giving $1 a day. The miracle of Vatra Village and all the work we're doing in Ukraine. And my son Andrew is not with us today. He's on his way back from Moldova. We've just signed the contracts for 2 new homes in the western part of Moldova, right next to Romania. And I'll be explaining why it's strategic to be so close to Romania. If Russia invades Ukraine and comes down to Odessa, where our girls are, we'll move them to Chisinau. But Chisinau, where Vatra Village is also in the red zone for invasion. And this new buildings and this new land we're looking at, and we've just taken the paperwork over to sign for it and buy it. Well, as the Lord provides, we're going to buy it. We're going to have 2 homes, each with 6 bedrooms, and then a barn that'll be made a camp. But the camp will do double duty, if necessary, to take all our kids there away from the front of the Russian army coming in. It's a tremendous challenge. Every time you kids come in, it just adds more burden and responsibility. And I'm asking you to pray. If you could pray today about giving $1 a day, it won't change your world. But every girl you've seen in that video just now, it will change theirs. You can give a gift, a one-time gift, or you can become a monthly sponsor of our work, become part of the Orphans Hands family. And our address is P.O. Box 25, Clinton, C-L-I-N-T-O-N, Clinton, Tennessee, 37716, I believe it is. And you can call us 833 Daily Faith. Or if you wish to, there's our address is dailyfaith.tv, and there's a giving page there. Help me help more kids. I am limited, and the ministry is limited to how many lives we can save by how much support we can raise and gain. And you can make a tremendous and eternal difference. Those girls now have a prospect when their time comes to marry a godly young man. In fact, next week, one of our girls, Ulizana, that traveled with me here in America, she is getting married next week, and she called me with her fiance to bless them. They called a few months ago and asked for permission. The young man asked me for permission to marry Ulizana, and they called me just 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and we prayed over them. And they're going to be part of the ministry. She's been part of the ministry. She helps with all the videos you watch. And you'll be hearing more about Ulizana's story in the future as we put together a wee package for her. And you'll see her in her wedding dress. It's just amazing. Help us today make this miracle happen, if you would. We really appreciate it. My friend Buddy Meloy has been part of my life for decades. We are old friends. And now, in fact, we can now say we are old friends. When we started out this thing, we were young friends, and now we're old friends. And he pastors an amazing church in Lake City, Florida, called New Life. If ever you're going to Disney, stop by to visit Buddy Meloy's church. You'll hear this prophetic pastor sharing. Buddy, I'm so glad to have you with us today. And as I said, my mouth is really painful. But I said, if you'll come and just speak, and I'll just keep my mouth shut. And the more you spoke, the more excited I got about what you're going to share. So tell us what the Lord has shown you and what you believe, what season we are in right at this moment.
Well, I share a lot of things, and some of these things I've shared on your program,
Yes.
and you brought up some of them about assassination. I actually said assassinations, and I've emphasized that with our church.
Not assassination.
Yeah, not just Trump, that there will be others, and there have been. And I mentioned to you earlier, there have been 41 candidates for office in Mexico that had been
41.
assassinated. 41. In fact, a letter was written by another world leader because they are concerned and they're hiring their own security now because they are concerned about a spread. And I said it's like a spirit going around the world,
Yes.
assassinations.
Yes.
I mentioned to you about this presidency would not end. His own party, his own people would get rid of him. We talked about that on one of your shows.
That is
That
correct.
happened. I said that back in 2021.
Talking about Biden.
And I said that it would be like Woodrow Wilson. His wife would run the country. And we just saw her run in the cabinet meeting last week. I mentioned it to you again.
Yes, you did.
So when I say these things, I say these things because I feel this is something the Lord's shown me. You have been talking about Ukraine. Way back, I thought we were going to have this program on Monday, so I got a miscommunication on my calendar. It was on my side. So I was digging through my journals to go back and find
And now,
this.
let me explain. Buddy writes everything down. I wish to goodness I had this discipline. Every message he preaches, every dream God gives him, every revelation he has, he writes them down and dates it in a journal. So he's got all these journals that he goes back at the prompting of the Lord, and he begins to read stuff that he's been talking about. How long ago was it since the Lord spoke to you about these assassinations?
Well, the assassinations was 2 years ago. So he said this is going to start starting in 2023. He said it'll start in 2023. And you had that former Japanese prime minister assassinated. And the Lord really rebuked me because I was doing a message on it. And I said, there's 3 things I'm concerned about. One of them is a terrorist attack.
Yes.
I said, starting in 2023, and I'll mention something on that in just a moment. I said, the other thing is the use of a nuclear weapon. And I said, and the other is assassinations. There's going to be assassinations. They're going to start in 2023 and build up. A couple of years ago, I used the word chaos. I said, you're going to hear chaos over and over. By the time we've gotten this year, all they're talking about is assassinations. Yeah. It's in the news continually, having hearings on it.
I saw Dan Bongino the other day, yesterday on the television, and he said that Iran has. He said, "Let me explain. There's not just crazy people trying to shoot the president." He says Iran is hunting. Hunting is the word he used. Hunting Donald Trump. They have several assassination teams right now. I guess they've come across the southern border because they're in the country. And they are hunting to kill Donald Trump. That's how serious this situation is.
According to Matt Gaetz, there's 5 Iranian assassination teams they know of. One of the things I found, and I took a picture of it on my phone in my journal from March the 12th, March the 2nd, 2012, is I was helping migrants fill out applications. They were coming across the border, but they were asking them questions about Americans being Americans, but they were all terrorists. And I wrote, I said, are they getting ready to let terrorists come across the border? Now, this was 2012. It's in my journal. I found it recently, took a picture.
It was 12 years ago.
12 years ago. So at that time, and I think that it was like they were trying to find out what they liked. They were trying to please them to a certain degree. And so I found that one. But I also had mentioned on your program another one about New York and London. And I mentioned that, I think, last year, and I think I mentioned it again recently.
Yes, you did.
And tied to it, I had given you a reference point. Sometimes the Lord gives me time signatures, so to speak. I've had that happen over the years. Sometimes, Philip, to the day. I knew the day a person in the church would die. I knew the exact date, told people, and it happened the very day.
Oh my goodness.
The Lord told me what day somebody in my church would come and apologize. I told Barb about it. She was standing there and she came to me and said, did he just, she goes, I said, it will be after the Chick-fil-A Bowl. She goes, I watched that game last night, and she watched him apologize to me on a Sunday morning. The day after, the next morning, with the exact teams I said would be in that game.
Yeah.
I said, these 2 teams will be playing. So sometimes he gives me time signatures. And I told you about the Indiana Jones movie.
Yes.
That dream about London and New York, actually New York primarily, then London secondary. I saw actually Big Ben. I saw Times Square, saw explosions in both of those. It started out with like an Indiana Jones movie. And I kept looking, when's the one coming out? It came out in 2023. So I told our church, I said, look out, there will be a terrorist attack in the fall. When I've gone back and looked at it, Philip, I was carrying a rocket launcher with a group of military men. This looks like the Middle East. I wrote that in my journal. I think it was October 7th.
So in these visions, the Lord takes you like into a movie scene almost.
Like a movie
and you're
scene.
You're participating in the event.
I'm participating in it, and I was holding a rocket launcher, and I looked, and it looked like Bear Mountain. I said, these guys look like Nazis. And I said, and for some reason, I felt it would be timed after an Indiana Jones movie in the fall, because there was fall leaves around. I could see the time. Well, October the 7th is the fall. That was the fall.
Yeah.
And I had told our church, and they came to me, and you said there was going to be a big terrorist attack. Well, I think that was the beginning leading up to where we're going now.
Yes.
Now, here's something, because I mentioned I'm in Florida right now. So we have a hurricane barreling down at us.
You literally,
right
as you're speaking, have a hurricane coming towards your front door. I know.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the cone. And so we're praying that it kind of either the cone shrinks or moves, or, shrink it down or something. But the hurricane is named Helene. And so at the beginning of the week, I said, Lord, let me just look and see, because sometimes I think sun, moon, sometimes storms mean something, not all the time. But I looked it up, and immediately it came up. It is the French translation version of the word Helen, the name Helen, which means radiant one or shining light. But immediately with that came up Helen of Troy. And I went, okay. And it didn't register immediately. And I read the little story, how she was born of Zeus and Leda. And she's basically almost like the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6.
Sure.
Where they came down and mingled with the men. And a lot of them believe the myths that we get kind of derived from that.
Of course they do.
And so she was born, most beautiful woman in the world, married Menelaus. Paris comes and takes her to Troy, which is in Turkey.
Yep.
It's you might have been there. There's actually a Trojan horse there, from a movie that they've got there. You can go see. It's Caracali, or I don't know how they pronounce it. But anyway, what happened was the Lord, as I was just going around prepping for the hurricane, he says, it's not about Helen. He says, it's about the Trojan horse. Wow. He said, we have now moved into a time where there are Trojan horses moving into America.
My God.
Yeah. Oh, I feel the Holy Spirit all over me on this. This is what he said. He says, this is a sign of the Trojan horse, that there are Trojan horses presently coming in on multiple levels.
Oh, absolutely.
All over the place.
I know that's a truth.
He said, if you know the story, they built the Trojan horse, they burned their tents.
Yep.
They all pretended like they left.
They're all going home.
Anywhere 23 or 30, there's different stories. 9. One, Odysseus was in the mouth. I think he was the one who had the idea. And they left. One guy said he all left behind. He said, this was a gift to the goddess Athena. We apologize for the war. They brought them in. And in the middle of the night, they got up, opened up the gates, and there was an invasion. Trojan horse.
We have watched it take place. There's no logical reason, buddy, for what for what the Biden-Harris administration have done to open up the gates of hell on the southern border and allow thousands of terrorists to come in.
And flying
Hundreds of thousands of them. They've flown into different parts of the country. It's unbelievable.
And gangs, Philip. I just heard yesterday as I was driving, actually it was Monday, I was driving here, thinking about this, and of course it wasn't on Monday, it's today. But I was thinking about this, and I knew the Trojan horse thing. And I turned on the radio, and the news came on, and they were talking about a VRBO that was raided by the FBI. I don't know if you saw this.
No, I never saw
raided by the FBI. This lady next door in suburbia had called the person who owned the VRBO. She says, your house has been being rented by smugglers. They just go online, get the VRBO, bringing, and they had like 15 or 20 migrants in the house where they were using it as they just go on VRBO and smuggling. And I thought, there's the Trojan horse. There's the Trojan horse right there.
Sure.
And so within suburbia, within all the various areas, and there's Trojan horses on multiple levels, Philip.
Yeah.
So one of the things I recorded something about this yesterday that I'm going to show to my church on October the 6th. I'm going to show that some of this stuff I'm talking about. But I felt like we need to be aware. Our churches need to be aware.
America needs to be aware. Because
America needs to be aware.
America has opened the door to a viper, and it is going to bite us. And you can't allow 20 million people from different nations with different cultures. If you import the third world, you become the third world. That's just a fact. And if you allow these terrorists to come into the country, they're not coming here and say, "Oh, what a wonderful country. We're going to put down our arms and be nice." That's not why they're here. Chinese. How many times have you heard the news say to you, listen to me folks watching, how many times have you heard the news say, these men of fighting age, all of these young men of fighting age, there's hardly any woman amongst them. It's all men of fighting age. We have allowed our country to be invaded. And I can't understand, I am stunned why this country is allowing this to happen, and there isn't an absolute revolution on the streets from Americans saying, what are you doing to our country? And instead of that, the polls are telling us that it's neck and neck. Something's wrong with America.
And I think something's wrong with the polls too, but
yeah,
I think there
true.
is something wrong with with America in that area. How we're not seeing what's inside the horse.
No, sir, we do not
on
see
multiple levels.
No.
I think politically, I think across the board, and with this, some things I won't go into. There are things like with Daniel. He said, "Hold on to this." Daniel wouldn't have known what it meant till it happened.
Yeah.
Jesus often spoke about when you see these signs. So there's certain things happening. There's some things I went back and read in this dream that I forgot about that have to do with me personally, that have happened or are happening to me and about to happen that I know are planned events. And it's like in between those events, the explosions happen. So one of the reasons I said we needed to meet is I think we're close. And I'm not the only one saying it. And I don't mean that to put anybody in fear, because we as a church can pray and we can be prepared and ready for what's about to take place.
I feel we're very close.
I do too. And I think
terrifyingly so.
I mentioned to you about Corregidor back in, I think, May.
Yeah.
And I told you I had a dream about Corregidor. And that was the biggest defeat by the Americans in the Philippines. That happened in the Philippines. Well, right now, China is really making a move on the Philippines.
Yes, it
they're
is.
ramming ships over there. They're ramming Filipino ships. The Coast Guard, they actually surrounded one with an ABC News crew on it. I don't know if you saw that. It made 60 Minutes. And I caught that and I went, that's what I saw that particular Corregidor and all those things in a dream out of nowhere. I hadn't even thinking about it.
China wants dominance in the south,
that area,
west, and southeastern parts of the world, and the China Sea, etc. And
I shared,
and because America's weak, they're bold.
Yes, Philip, I shared something with our church, and I know we're short on time. Is that Daniel didn't wait till he got into the den of the lions to start praying. Sometimes it's too late to start praying when you're in the den. I mean, we can pray in our situations, and that's great.
Yeah.
But we need to be praying now before we reach that den of lions.
Yes. Buddy, thank you for this. I just know if you're watching this program, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, because you're going to see things come to pass in the next few months, few weeks, that's going to make you go, oh my God. I mean, Israel and Lebanon, that's disaster about to happen. What's taking place with China and all over the world, we need to keep our eyes and our hearts open. Thank you, Buddy, for being with us today. He is pastor of Lake City, New Life Fellowship in Lake City. Go and see him if ever you're in the area. Thank you for watching Daily Faith today. I really appreciate your prayers. Help us as we continue to be in the mission field, that the fields are white in the harvest. Thank you for watching Daily Faith today. We'll see you again. God bless you. Bye-bye.
For over 25 years, the Cameron family has been changing the lives of orphans in Romania and Moldova, from providing running water, flushing toilets, and clean wells, to coal for heat, new windows, as well as food and clothing. They champion the physical needs of the orphans in these broken and desolate countries. Many of Moldova's orphans are saved from the horrors of trafficking through homes founded by the Camerons, and in the process, orphans become daughters and sons. They come to know their Heavenly Father and are forever changed by the love of Jesus. God help the Camerons lift these amazing young men and women out of darkness. Now, no longer orphans, they want to return and invade that very same darkness with the light of Jesus Christ. The Orphan's Hands equips these daughters and sons to become missionaries. Your monthly gift of $31 will allow us to rescue and take in more girls and boys, saving them from the hell of human trafficking. Your monthly partnership will allow us to care for those in the Orphan's Hands homes in Moldova and the Ukraine. If you want to join Philip and Chrissy in taking care of these precious young people, please contact us today by calling 833-DAILY-FAITH. You can also give by going online to www.dailyfaith.tv or by writing to Post Office Box 25, Clinton, Tennessee 37716. So many lives depend on what we do. Thank you for loving the lost.